They say that the truth has a funny way of revealing itself, not always with fireworks or confessions, but sometimes with the most innocent of remarks. For me, it was a Tuesday afternoon, and the air still smelled like mac and cheese. I had just gotten home from work early, an unusually slow day at the firm. I'm a software systems analyst, which is a fancy way of saying I stare at code all day and try to stop the world from falling apart when it breaks. That day, nothing broke. So I packed up, sent my team a quick Slack message, and came home. Our babysitter, a 17-year-old girl named Ava, was finishing up snack time with my daughter Lily and my son Evan when I walked in. Ava was bright, responsible, polite to a fault, the kind of girl you trusted immediately. She'd been with us for over a year, part-time after school, and on the occasional weekend when my wife and I needed a night out or had overlapping schedules. "Hey, Mr. Dalton," she chirped when I walked into the kitchen. She wiped her hands on a dish towel, turning toward me with that ever-cheerful smile. "Hey, Ava, you're a lifesaver. How were they today?" She chuckled, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "Pretty good." Lily tried to feed Evan a Cheerio she'd dropped on the floor, but otherwise, a success. I smiled, grateful for the lightness. After kissing both kids on their heads and grabbing a bottle of water from the fridge, Ava leaned against the counter and asked, "So, is your wife's friend coming by again today?" That was the moment. That one sentence. Casual, innocent, curious. "Friend?" I asked, still facing the fridge, my voice light, but my heartbeat had already started to climb. "Yeah," Ava replied, unfazed. "The guy from last week. He came by a couple times while you were at work. Seemed nice. Really friendly with Lily, too." The bottle in my hand slipped slightly, knocking against the fridge shelf. I managed a tight smile and turned toward her. "Huh. I didn't know Vanessa was expecting anyone last week." Ava shrugged. "Maybe I wasn't supposed to say anything. Sorry if I messed up." No, I said quickly. "Not at all. You didn't do anything wrong." But something was definitely wrong. My brain spiraled as I walked Ava out, thanking her and nodding at her updates about Evan's nap schedule. I shut the door, locked it behind her, and turned around to face the empty house. It was too quiet. My wife was still at work. The kids were watching a cartoon on low volume, oblivious. That single word, friend, echoed through my head like a bell toll. Vanessa hadn't mentioned anyone coming over. No old college friend, no neighbor dropping by, no coworker needing help with something. And yet Ava seemed so sure. "A couple times," she said. "That was not a one-off visit. It was a Tuesday, a mundane, ordinary Tuesday. And I couldn't remember the last time a single sentence rearranged the architecture of my world so quickly. For the next hour, I floated through my house like a ghost. I didn't want to panic. I didn't want to jump to conclusions. But suspicion is a virus once it enters your bloodstream. You can feel it worming its way through you, contaminating every thought, every memory, every innocent smile from the person you love. When Vanessa came home that night, everything looked normal. She kissed the kids, gave me a peck on the cheek, and asked what we wanted for dinner. Her smile was bright. Her mood was light. She even suggested we watch a movie together after bedtime. But I wasn't looking at her the same way anymore. I was trying to figure out what I had missed, what she was hiding behind that practiced ease. Later that evening, after the kids were asleep and the opening credits of some streaming romantic comedy were rolling, I asked as casually as I could, "Hey, did someone stop by last week? Ava mentioned something about a friend of yours dropping in." She blinked, just for a second. A tiny flicker of hesitation, like a glitch in a smooth animation. "Oh," she said, laughing too softly. "Yeah, just Jared. You remember Jared, right? From my old job? He was in the neighborhood and stopped by to say hi. Nothing big." "Jared?" No, I didn't remember a Jared. I'd never heard the name before, but I didn't let on. Instead, I nodded, pretending to remember. "Right. Cool." She went back to the movie, leaning her head on my shoulder. I kept my eyes on the screen but didn't process a single frame. That night, I waited until she was asleep to dig. I didn't know what I was looking for, not really. Just signs. Evidence. Any clue that something was off. I checked her phone while she slept. Face ID failed. Too risky to try her passcode. I backed out. Instead, I opened the browser on her tablet and searched through the history. Nothing incriminating. Unless you count shopping sites, a parenting blog, and a few searches for dinner recipes. But when I opened her calendar app, I noticed something odd. Thursday afternoon had a one-word entry. Meeting. Just that. No time, no reminder, no location. The same appeared on the previous Tuesday. And again the week before that. Always meeting. Always on a weekday afternoon. It wasn't conclusive, but something about it scratched at me. My wife was a project manager for a marketing agency. Meetings were frequent and usually scheduled through Outlook or her company's internal platform. She never used the calendar app on her tablet for work. Why these ones? I spent the next 2 days acting like everything was fine. But every moment we spent together felt like a performance. Her laughter sounded rehearsed. Her gestures, overly precise. Even the way she tucked her hair behind her ear started to feel like choreography. By Thursday, I'd made a decision. I drove to an electronics store during lunch and bought a pair of micro voice recorders. One for her car, one for the bedroom, hidden in a hollowed-out old book on the nightstand. I hated myself for it, but I needed truth. Not suspicion, not guesswork. I needed to know. The car was easy. She left it unlocked most days. I slipped the recorder under the front passenger seat, stuck to the metal frame with a piece of double-sided tape. The nightstand was trickier, but she never opened my side. I'd kept a small collection of antique books for years, and one had a hidden compartment I'd made in college as a joke. Now it served a new purpose. I felt like a stranger in my own life. And still, the worst was yet to come. The next evening, while Vanessa was helping Lily with her bath, I took a moment to retrieve the car recorder. I didn't have much time. I slipped it into my pocket, went to my office, and plugged it into my laptop. The audio crackled to life. At first, nothing, just the sounds of the road, the gentle hum of music. But then a voice. A man's voice. Familiar, confident, laughing, and then hers. Softer, flirtatious, warm in a way I hadn't heard in years. I pressed pause, my pulse pounding. It wasn't just the words that would haunt me. It was the tone. Something about the way she said his name, Jared, like it was the only word in the world that mattered. That was when the air left my lungs. And I realized something else, something more chilling than betrayal. She wasn't just cheating on me. She was falling in love. The hardest part wasn't the sound of her voice. It was what it did to me. Listening to that short clip, I felt like the floor beneath my feet had buckled. My hands hovered over the keyboard as the recording played on, each passing second confirming what I didn't want to admit. Their conversation wasn't explicit. Not yet. But it was easy. Familiar. Filled with inside jokes, teases, laughter that came too quickly, too comfortably. He called her Ness. That crushed me more than I expected. I hadn't heard that nickname in years. It used to be mine, back when we were younger and everything was simpler. When love came effortlessly, without the weight of routine, mortgage payments, and kids who needed something every waking second. I hit pause again. That tone in her voice, it didn't belong in a casual friendship. She sounded like a woman reaching for something. Someone. Like she was 15 again and had butterflies in her stomach. I sat there in the low hum of my office, surrounded by framed engineering certificates and neat rows of reference books, and I felt like none of it mattered. Not one thing in that room could fix this. I didn't listen to the rest. I couldn't. Not yet. Just that sliver of her laughter had been enough to punch a hole through me. But I had work to do. If there was one thing I knew how to do well, it was investigate. Quietly. Thoroughly. Cleanly. Friday morning, I made sure Vanessa was out the door before checking the second recorder, the one hidden in the nightstand. I didn't expect much. It had only been running a day, and we hadn't gone to bed early. Still, I had to be sure. I queued it up. Most of it was mundane. Doors opening. A faint creak of the mattress when she sat down. Her sigh as she settled under the covers. The buzz of her phone. A few soft taps on the screen. And then, buried in the middle of the file, just past midnight, her voice. Barely above a whisper. Hey, I miss you too. A pause. Soft chuckle. No, he has no idea. He's clueless. My breath caught. My heart thudded against my ribs so hard I thought I might be sick. Another pause. She laughed again. Quiet. Gentle. Then, almost sleepily, she murmured, Don't worry. Soon. Soon. I closed the file. There it was. No more guessing. No more, maybe I misunderstood. It was real. And it was current. She wasn't just revisiting something old. She was building something new. By noon, I had made up my mind. I wasn't going to confront her. Not yet. That wasn't how this would end. If she wanted to lie, I'd let her bury herself in them first. I would gather everything. conversations, meetings, messages, until there was no corner she could crawl into and deny what she had done. I called in sick at work for Monday and Tuesday. My team could handle things without me. Right now, I needed to become someone else. A version of myself I had never allowed to exist. Cold, clinical, silent. That weekend passed like a strange play I was watching from behind glass. We took the kids to the aquarium. Vanessa smiled at me in the parking lot as Evan begged to hold both our hands. She looked at me with eyes that sparkled like they always had, and I smiled back like nothing was wrong. Inside, I watched her more than the jellyfish. I studied how often she checked her phone, the moments she drifted, even when Lily was showing her a seahorse with wide-eyed wonder, the quiet moments in the back seat, typing away while I drove. She was slipping, not enough to notice if you weren't looking, but I was. And once you know someone is lying to you, even their breathing sounds like a deception. That night, I went to bed early and left my phone recording by the bathroom door. She always called him from there. Her so-called evening wind down. This time, she stayed in longer. When she came out, her face was flushed, eyes a little glassy. She kissed me goodnight with a softness that felt rehearsed. The next morning, I listened to the audio while she was in the shower. I caught everything. "I dreamt about you again," she whispered. Long silence. Her breath hitched. "No, not like that. It was different. You were here. With me. Not just sneaking around. It felt real." I fast-forwarded. Her voice had a rhythm to it when she spoke to him. She took pauses. She let herself feel, like she'd stepped into a secret garden where nothing existed but the two of them. "Sometimes I wonder," she said at one point, "if I made the wrong choice." My stomach clenched. Wrong choice. That was me. I was the mistake she was referring to. The man she built a life with, had children with, celebrated anniversaries with. All of it. A misstep. An error she was now quietly correcting with each text, each phone call, each secret smile. By Sunday night, I had everything I needed: audio clips, timestamps, even a few blurred screenshots from our home security cam showing her walking to the backyard gate late at night. She never went out there. Not alone. But now she did. Talking softly. Smiling to herself in the moonlight. The puzzle was coming together, and I knew what piece I needed next. I had a name, Jared, but that was it. No last name. No face. Monday morning, I dropped the kids off early and returned home, parked 2 blocks away, and waited. If he'd been coming during the week, he'd likely do it again. At 11:42 a.m., a silver sedan turned the corner and slowed in front of my house. The driver parked half a block down, then walked toward my front door like he'd done it 100 times. He was tall, fit, maybe late 30s, dressed sharp, but casual enough to blend in. Sunglasses, confident stride. I took photos from inside my car. He used the side gate. Vanessa had left it unlocked. I watched him disappear around the back, then reappear inside our kitchen 15 minutes later. I couldn't see him clearly through the blinds, but his silhouette moved through my house like he owned it. He poured himself coffee, sat at our kitchen island. When Vanessa appeared in view, she kissed him. Not a peck, not a greeting. A kiss full of familiarity, ownership. I sat there, frozen, my hands gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. 23 minutes. That's how long he stayed. When he left, he didn't look around. He walked with the smug confidence of a man who believed the husband was gone. Working. Blind. I followed him. Not close. Just enough to get a plate number and see where he went. He pulled into an office building 3 neighborhoods over. Marketing agency. That answered that. Later that day, I searched their staff directory. There he was. Jared Linwood. Senior brand consultant. I clicked his profile. A bright smile. Career highlights. Recommendations from clients. A real golden boy. I printed it all. Every detail. I added it to the growing file in my desk drawer. That night, as Vanessa slept next to me, I stared at the ceiling, wondering how we had gotten here. Had it started as a mistake? A moment of weakness? Or had she been looking for an exit all along? I didn't know. But what I did know, beyond doubt, beyond fury, was that this wouldn't end with a quiet confrontation. She wasn't just cheating on me. She was replacing me. And I wasn't about to let that happen. Tuesday morning began like every other. Cereal for the kids, coffee for Vanessa, toast left half-eaten on the counter. She kissed my cheek like nothing had changed, as if she hadn't kissed another man in our kitchen just the day before. I watched her closely now, not with love or longing, but with a detached sort of interest, like an engineer observing a failing bridge. I no longer saw her as my wife. She was a system compromised by corruption, and I was here to study every crack in its foundation before it collapsed. "Hey," she said, mid-sip of her coffee. "I've got that thing at the office later. Might be late." Thing. She always used that word now. A vague placeholder, a soft buffer to keep me from asking questions. I smiled and nodded. "No problem," I said. "Take your time." She smiled. It didn't quite reach her eyes. The moment she left, I got to work. I called in a favor from an old college friend, Colin, now a forensic IT specialist. We hadn't spoken in years, but when I mentioned the situation, he didn't hesitate. "Bring me the phone. I'll crack everything. Give me a few hours." I handed him the clone device and the backup SD cards from the recorders. I wasn't just after what Vanessa had said. I wanted what she'd deleted. While he worked, I drove across town to Jared's office. I didn't go inside. Instead, I parked where I could watch the entrance, sipping coffee, observing. He exited for lunch at exactly 12:06 p.m. Alone, no jacket, earbuds in. He walked to a nearby cafe like a man without a single worry in the world. He had no idea the life he was unraveling. That made it easier. Because this wasn't just about Vanessa anymore. It wasn't even about the affair. It was about consequences. He had inserted himself into my family, sat at my table, played with my children, and smiled at my wife like I no longer existed. He was going to learn what it felt like to be replaced. That afternoon, Colin called. "You might want to sit down," he said. The files he recovered were worse than I imagined. Deleted texts, voicemails, photos. One of the messages, dated 2 months ago, read, "Can't wait until he finds out. He deserves to know you chose me." Another, "This life with him, it's safe. But we're real. And I need real." She sent him selfies. In our bed. In our bathroom. Wearing the sweater I bought her last Christmas. Jared had responded with voice notes. His voice, silky, cocky, confident, describing things he wanted to do to her the next time she snuck away. Colin transferred everything to an encrypted drive. "What now?" he asked. Now it was my turn to write the next chapter. I didn't sleep that night. I stayed in my office, organizing files, timestamps, folders labeled with sickening clarity, calls, texts, photos, video. It was all there. By dawn, I had a plan. Not revenge, not yet. That would come later. First, I needed to corner her emotionally. Strategically, I waited until the weekend. On Saturday morning, Vanessa suggested a family trip to the zoo. I agreed. We packed the kids into the SUV, and I drove. The kids laughed in the back seat, asking about flamingos and giraffes. She looked at me and smiled. A flicker of guilt passed over her face, but it was quickly buried under rehearsed ease. At the zoo, I played the part of the loving husband. I held her hand, took pictures of her with the kids, carried Evan on my shoulders. Anyone watching us would have seen a picture-perfect family, but the cracks were widening beneath the surface. I waited until Sunday night. The kids were asleep. She was curled up on the couch in sweatpants, scrolling through her phone. I sat beside her, pretending to watch a documentary. Slowly, I leaned in and kissed her cheek. "You know," I said softly, "I've been thinking about us lately." She looked up, surprised. "Oh," I nodded. "Yeah, about how lucky I am. I mean, not everyone gets a love like this, right?" She smiled, cautious. "Right. And the kids," I added. "They're perfect. And you've built something incredible. All the sacrifices you've made. All the hours at work. The support. The love." She blinked, suspicious now. "Where's this coming from?" I laughed, light and easy. "Just gratitude. I was going through some old photos earlier. Remember that beach trip? The one where Lily tried to eat sand?" She laughed, and for a moment, I saw the woman I married. Not the liar. Not the stranger. Just her. And then I said, "Would you ever do anything to risk all this?" Her smile faltered. "What do you mean?" "I mean," I said, still watching the screen. "Would you ever lie to me about something big? Something that could destroy all of this?" She stiffened slightly. "No," she said. "Of course not." I nodded, reached for her hand, squeezed it gently. "That's good," I said. "Because if I ever found out you were keeping something from me, something that involved the kids or our home, I don't know if I'd ever recover." She didn't respond. We sat in silence. I could feel her heartbeat through her palm. I let go. That night, I didn't sleep next to her. I told her I had a migraine and took the guest room. She didn't protest. The next morning, I knew she'd be on edge. I wanted her to be. I wanted her to sweat. Because I wasn't just building a case anymore. I was building doubt. Let her wonder what I knew. Let her unravel. But I wasn't done yet. I booked a meeting with a family attorney. Not for divorce. Yet. But for information. I needed to know my rights. Custody options. Financial implications. I laid out everything I had. The recordings, the texts, the timeline. The lawyer was blunt. If you go public with this, she'll be painted as unstable. Especially if you can prove she brought this man into the house. Around your kids. That's reckless behavior. That was all I needed to hear. Later that week, I installed a final camera. This time in the backyard, near the gate. If Jared returned, I'd catch him from the moment he stepped onto our property. No ambiguity. Vanessa's behavior began to shift. She was quieter, less affectionate. Her smile faded faster. She was distracted during dinner. She checked her phone constantly. She knew. Not everything, but enough to be afraid. On Friday, I saw her delete a message the moment she read it. I was watching from my office window, pretending to water a plant. She didn't know the phone was still cloned. I opened the backup. Jared, he's acting weird. Are you sure he doesn't know? Vanessa, I don't know. He's different. I think he suspects something. Jared, maybe we need to move faster. Vanessa, let's talk tonight. That night, she said she was working late. I told her I'd be home with the kids, that I had a deadline. She left at 6:43 p.m. I waited until 6:58 p.m., then quietly slipped out and followed her. She didn't go to her office. She went to Jared's. He met her outside. They embraced quickly, then walked down the street toward a quiet restaurant with dim lights and heavy curtains. I didn't follow them in. I didn't need to. Instead, I returned home, kissed my kids goodnight, and sat in my office chair, staring at the laptop. I clicked through each folder, each clip, each message, and then I opened a blank document and began to write. To whom it may concern, let me tell you about the woman you think you know. It's strange, the kind of clarity that comes when you stop trying to salvage something that's already dead. By Saturday morning, I wasn't pretending anymore. Not to myself. Not to Vanessa. Not to anyone. I woke up early, before the sun, and went for a walk through the neighborhood. I passed the park where Lily learned to ride her bike. The cafe where Vanessa and I used to sit on slow Sunday mornings before the kids. I didn't feel nostalgic. I felt clinical. Like I was walking through a museum of a life that no longer belonged to me. I'd spent the past week gathering. Now I would act. The letter I'd started on Friday had become a full document. Carefully curated screenshots, transcribed conversations, and images pulled from video stills. All wrapped in a calm, measured introduction. This is not an attempt to destroy, only to reveal. But that was a lie. I didn't want to destroy something. Not her. Not Jared. The illusion. The comfortable fiction that had wrapped itself around my life like a warm blanket. I wanted it gone. Vanessa's phone, still cloned to the spare device in my drawer, lit up with a message from Jared just after 9 a.m. Jared, still on for tonight? Vanessa, absolutely. Kids are with his sister. He won't be home till late. I smiled. She hadn't asked me if I was going anywhere. Just assumed. Probably thought I'd retreat to the guest room again, muttering about headaches or workload. That was good. Let her believe she was still in control. That afternoon, I sent the kids with my sister under the pretense of a spontaneous overnight visit. She was happy to take them. I packed their bags, hugged them tightly, and told them I loved them more than anything in the world. And I meant it. The house was quiet by 5. Vanessa came home at 6, humming to herself, carrying a bottle of wine and a takeout bag from her favorite Thai place. She looked casual, radiant even, in a way I hadn't seen in years. A loose blouse, light makeup, perfume I hadn't smelled in months. "Where are the kids?" she asked, barely looking up from her phone. "Gone to Emily's for the night," I said. "Figured we could use some time." She smiled, careful now, cautious. "That's nice of you." We sat through dinner. I asked about her day. She gave vague answers. Her fingers barely left her phone. I watched her lie with practiced ease. After dinner, she excused herself to the bedroom. I gave her 10 minutes. Then I opened the vent. The second phone was there, right where she thought I'd never find it. I pulled it out, unlocked it using the code I'd long since cracked, and navigated to the photo gallery. Dozens of selfies. Most recent taken just minutes earlier. She was wearing the blouse I'd just complimented, posing with a suggestive smile. Text attached. Vanessa, warming up for you. Can't wait. She was still in the bathroom when I put the phone back. I returned to the living room and waited. At exactly 8:23 p.m., Jared's silver sedan pulled up. Vanessa came out moments later, keys in hand, her voice floating down the hall. Heading out to meet Marissa for wine. Don't wait up. I didn't say a word. She was halfway down the driveway when I stepped onto the porch. Vanessa. She froze. Turned. Even from a distance, I could see the color drain from her face. I walked toward her slowly, deliberately. I had no intention of making a scene. Not yet. I need you to come back inside, I said calmly. Why? She asked, trying to force a laugh. I already told you. Please, I cut her off. Just a few minutes. She hesitated, looked toward Jared's car. He revved the engine once, annoyed. She turned and followed me. Once inside, I gestured toward the kitchen table. A thick folder sat in the center, plain black, no markings. What's this? She asked. Everything, I said. She didn't move. So I opened it, laid out a single page. A still image of her and Jared kissing in our kitchen, time-stamped. Another of him entering the house through the side gate. A transcript of a text conversation. Her hands trembled as she picked it up. You went through my phone? No, I replied. I went through his. That was a lie, but it didn't matter. The result was the same. She sat. I watched her eyes scan line after line. Her breathing grew shallow. Her lips parted, as if to speak, but she said nothing. I know everything, I said. I know when it started. I know how often. I know you've brought him here. Into our bed. Around our children. I never. Don't, I said sharply. Her voice died in her throat. I have evidence, I continued. Enough to make sure you never get full custody. Enough to make your family see who you really are. Enough to destroy his career. His reputation. Tears welled in her eyes. But I didn't feel pity. Not anymore. So what happens now? She whispered. That depends on you, I said. She looked up at me. I'm not going to scream, I said. I'm not going to break things or post this online. Not yet. But you're going to call him. Right now? On speaker. Her mouth opened again. Nothing came out. You're going to tell him it's over. That you're cutting all contact. That if he reaches out again, I'll release everything. I'll bury him. She shook her head. He won't believe me. He'll know it's. Call him, I repeated. And to my surprise, she did. Hands trembling, she dialed the number. He answered almost instantly. Hey, babe, Jared said. She hesitated. Vanessa, he said again. Then she spoke. Flat. Mechanical. It's over. Don't call me again. Don't come near me. If you do, it'll destroy you. Silence. Then, Jared's voice, confused, angry. What the hell is this? I mean it, she said, voice cracking. It's done. She hung up. I took the phone, deleted the call, and placed it back on the table. You're going to move into the guest room tonight, I said. Tomorrow, we tell the kids we're separating. You'll say we've grown apart. We'll keep it clean. Civil, but you're going to give me everything I ask for. She didn't argue, didn't cry. She just nodded. I walked past her, up the stairs, and into the bedroom that had once been ours. I lay down in the dark, staring at the ceiling, feeling neither victory nor relief. Only silence. But I wasn't done. Not yet. Because Jared? He wasn't walking away from this untouched. It was early Sunday morning when I stood on the sidewalk across from Jared's building. A quiet, tree-lined street, the kind people paid extra to live on because the leaves stayed golden just a little longer in autumn. I stared up at the third-floor balcony, cup of bitter coffee in hand, and wondered what lies he was telling himself. That it had all been harmless? That Vanessa was the one who initiated? That I was the idiot husband who never saw it coming? I finished the coffee, tossed the cup, and turned away. I hadn't come to confront him. Not yet. That would come later. I went home, packed the kids' bags, and drove them to Emily's for the week. I told them Mommy and Daddy needed some space to talk about grown-up things. Lily cried. Evan didn't understand. I promised them everything would be okay, and I would make it okay. Vanessa and I didn't speak much that evening. She kept her distance. I noticed the dark circles under her eyes, the stiffness in her shoulders. The guilt had finally begun to settle. Too late. She slept in the guest room again. On Monday, I met with my lawyer. We went over every file, every recording. He agreed to proceed with an uncontested divorce, citing irreconcilable differences, but with full custody requested. Vanessa's documented deceit and the presence of a non-family male around the kids without disclosure would bolster my case. I left his office with a folder under my arm and a plan stitched tight in my chest. Now came the part one had been quietly constructing for weeks. Jared's undoing. You see, Jared wasn't just some guy sneaking around with my wife. He was a polished, well-liked senior consultant at a boutique marketing agency that represented family-friendly brands, one of which was a children's education app with strict public image clauses in every employee's contract. I knew this because I called his company pretending to be a potential client 3 weeks ago. His boss, Melissa, had gushed over Jared. He's amazing, brilliant, trustworthy, always goes the extra mile. I remembered the sweetness in her tone. It made what I was about to do feel like surgery, necessary, precise, bloodless. On Wednesday morning, I sent a single, neatly packaged email from an anonymous account to Melissa and the company's compliance officer. The subject line read, "Concerning potential code of conduct violation, Jared Linwood." Inside were 4 attachments. A video still of Jared entering my home while my wife and I were still legally together. A transcript of a conversation between them referencing my children and their secret meetups. A screenshot of a message from Jared stating, "He doesn't deserve you. One day, this will all be ours." A link to a Dropbox folder with time-stamped photos from our cameras, none explicit, but clear enough. There was no threat, no explanation, just a single sentence at the end. You decide what aligns with your company's values. I closed the laptop, stood, and exhaled. The message had been sent. By the end of the day, I had confirmation that the email had been opened. Jared was about to learn what it felt like to have something precious taken from him. The next evening, I parked near his office and waited. Just before 6, I saw him leave the building, shoulders tense, phone pressed hard to his ear. His pace was different now, less smug. He looked behind him twice. Paranoia had arrived. Vanessa, meanwhile, was unraveling. I'd told her I wanted everything handled quietly, for the kids, for appearances, but the boundaries were clear. She would leave the house once the papers were signed. She could see the children under supervised terms until the court finalized custody. She agreed to everything without a fight. Guilt had hollowed her out. But guilt wasn't enough. On Friday, I delivered the final blow. I asked Ava, our babysitter, to come over after school. She hadn't been back since that one casual comment flipped my life upside down. She arrived with her usual energy, but I could tell she was confused. Vanessa, pale and quiet, avoided her completely. I sat Ava down at the table and handed her a sealed envelope. "This is a letter for your parents," I said. "Nothing bad, but they need to know something." She nodded, still unsure. "Okay. And Ava," I added, "thank you for telling me what you saw. You probably didn't even realize it at the time, but you gave me the truth. That matters." She smiled, shyly. "I'm glad I said something. I just thought it was weird. That guy acted like he lived here." I swallowed. "Yeah," I said. "He thought so too." After she left, I walked into the guest room. Vanessa sat on the edge of the bed, holding the pen I'd left beside the divorce papers. She looked up, eyes red, makeup smudged. "I'm sorry," she said. "For what?" She opened her mouth, closed it, finally whispered, "All of it." I nodded. "But I'm not sorry you got caught," I said. "You needed to see what it felt like to be discarded." Her shoulders slumped. "It wasn't supposed to go that far," she murmured. "None of them ever are," I replied. She signed. The next morning, she left. Just like that. Her clothes, her perfume, her humming in the kitchen, all gone. And for the first time in weeks, the house felt quiet in a good way. I kept the kids home that day. We baked cookies, made a mess of the kitchen, watched a cartoon together under a blanket fort that took over the living room. When they asked where Mommy was, I said she needed a break but loved them very much. That part, at least, was still true. On Monday, my lawyer called. Jared's company terminated him this morning. I didn't ask how he knew. I just nodded, silent, breathing in the satisfaction that came with justice. Not rage-fueled or messy, but calm, earned. Later that night, I received an email from an unlisted address. Subject, "You win." Body, "I don't know how you did it. I don't even know what to say. She was everything to me. Now I have nothing. You took it all." I stared at it for a while, then deleted it without replying. Weeks passed. The divorce was finalized with full custody awarded to me. Vanessa moved in with her sister temporarily, but I didn't care to know the details. The children adjusted faster than I expected. Lily stopped asking about mommy after a few weeks. Evan, too young to understand, simply clung to me a little tighter. As for me, I focused on rebuilding, not just routines, but trust in myself, in the idea that peace could follow betrayal. Eventually, I took down the cameras. I deleted the recordings. I stopped checking her phone logs. The need for control had passed. One Sunday afternoon, I found myself sitting on the back porch, watching the kids chase each other in the yard. The sun was warm, the breeze gentle, and for the first time in a long, long while, I smiled without bitterness behind it. There's a peculiar peace that comes from losing everything you thought you couldn't live without, and realizing you're better off without it. I still don't know what Vanessa felt, really, whether she loved him or simply wanted to feel wanted. Maybe it doesn't matter. She chose to betray a life we built together, and I chose not to be a victim of that choice. Epilogue. Months later, I ran into Jarrett. It was a chance encounter at a gas station just outside town. He was in line ahead of me, unshaven, wearing a hoodie, head down. I almost didn't recognize him, but he looked up, and our eyes met. He froze. I saw the recognition flash, the shame, the fury, but I said nothing. I paid for my fuel, walked past him, and stepped out into the sunlight. Behind me, he didn't move. He never said a word. That silence, that was the real ending.